Thanks for tuning in. In 1970, Ford aimed to continue its muscle car legacy with V8 power. Legendary cars like the Boss, Torino, and Shelby saw great improvement in terms of performance. In this episode, we'll review the quickest Ford muscle cars from 1970. Stay tuned and be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel as we get into the countdown. Number 14. Ford Ranchero GT350, 8.9 seconds. The Ford Ranchero was a utility vehicle manufactured by Ford from 1957 until 1979. The 1970 model was based on the mid-size Torino, which featured unibody construction. It also sported deluxe wheel covers, bright wheel well moldings, and hidden windshield wipers. The Ranchero GT had a coil spring setup with independent suspension and anti-sway bars, providing good handling characteristics and a smooth ride. Under the Ranchero's hood was the 302 cubic inch V8, part of Ford's Windsor engine family. This engine featured a cast iron block and heads, a 2-barrel carburetor, a large radiator, and an efficient water pump for better cooling. The 302 produced 220 horsepower and 300 pound-feet of torque. It was mated to a 3-speed manual transmission, and the car could accelerate from 0 to 60 miles per hour in 8.9 seconds. Number 13. Ford Galaxie 500 351, 8.7 seconds. The Galaxie line, which started in 1959, had always been positioned as a full-size car that could offer a mix of performance, comfort, and affordability. By 1970, Ford sought to refresh the Galaxie with modern styling while offering powerful engine options to compete with other full-size cars from Chevy and Dodge. Its long, sculpted body, slightly sloped windshield, and smooth body lines helped the car achieve better aerodynamics for a vehicle of its size. It used a coil and leaf spring suspension system with an independent setup and heavy-duty shocks. Under the hood was the 351 cubic inch V8, featuring a cast iron block and a 4-barrel carburetor that helped produce 300 horsepower and 308 pound-feet of torque. It was mated to a 3-speed manual transmission, and the car could accelerate from 0 to 60 miles per hour in 8.7 seconds. Number 12. Ford Fairlane 500 351, 7.8 seconds. The 1970 Ford Fairlane 500 was designed as a mid-size option and positioned between the compact Falcon and the larger Galaxie. The 351 used the Torino platform and could rival the Chevelle and Plymouth Road Runner. The 1970 Fairlane featured a sleek, tapered front end with a wider grille, a subtle hood scoop, and a low slung profile, enhancing airflow to the engine. The Fairlane 500 used an independent coil spring suspension system up front, along with heavy-duty shocks. Under the hood was the 351 cubic inch engine with a 4-barrel carburetor. It produced 300 horsepower and 308 pound-feet of torque. This engine was mated to a 3-speed manual transmission, and the car could accelerate from 0 to 60 miles per hour in 7.8 seconds. Number 11. Ford Thunderbird 429 Thunderjet Special, 7.6 seconds. The Thunderbird, originally introduced in 1955 as a personal luxury car, had evolved significantly by 1970. Ford decided to equip the 1970 Thunderbird with the 429 Thunderjet V8 to position it as a powerful yet luxurious vehicle. The 429 Thunderjet became a top rival for cars like the Cadillac Eldorado and Buick Riviera. The body featured a long, sleek design with a distinctive long hood, short deck profile, and pointed front end, which reduced drag. The Thunderbird utilized a front coil spring suspension and leaf spring setup on the rear with heavy-duty shocks. The 429 cubic inch V8 featured a 4-barrel carburetor, which helped produce 360 horsepower and 480 pound-feet of torque. This engine was mated to a 3-speed automatic transmission, and the car could accelerate from 0 to 60 miles per hour in 7.6 seconds. Number 10. Ford Ranchero GT351, 7.5 seconds. The 1970 Ford Ranchero GT351 combined a pickup truck's practicality with a muscle car's performance and style. By 1970, Ford aimed to make the Ranchero more performance-oriented to compete with Chevy's El Camino, which was gained popularity among enthusiasts. The Ranchero GT's body shared many design elements with the Torino, including a pointed nose and fastback-like rear roofline. The front featured an independent coil spring suspension system with heavy-duty shocks, giving the Ranchero GT a performance edge while maintaining comfort. Under the hood was the 351 cubic inch V8 featuring a cast iron block with large valves and a high-performance camshaft. The 4-barrel carburetor provided an optimal air-fuel mixture, helping the engine to produce 300 horsepower and 380 pound-feet of torque. The engine was mated to a 3-speed manual transmission, and the car could accelerate from 0 to 60 miles per hour in 7.5 seconds. Number 9. Ford Galaxie 500 429. 7.3 seconds. By 1970, Ford built the Galaxie 500 as a full-size car that could compete with rivals like the Chevy Impala and Pontiac Catalina. The 1970 Galaxie 500 was more streamlined than previous models, with a slightly lowered roofline and a longer, wider stance. Its revised front end featured a wider grille and quad headlights, providing a bold appearance that also reduced drag. The Galaxie 500 featured an independent coil spring front and a leaf spring solid axle rear suspension designed to absorb road imperfections and provide a comfortable ride. Under the hood was the 429 cubic inch V8, a big block engine that featured a cast iron block with high-flow cylinder heads and a 4-barrel carburetor. This engine produced 375 horsepower, 450 pound-feet of torque. It was mated to a 3-speed automatic transmission, and the car could accelerate from 0 to 60 miles per hour in 7.3 seconds. Number 8. Ford Fairlane 500 429 Super Cobra Jet. 6.9 seconds. The Fairlane, a nameplate that was around since the 1950s, had become synonymous with affordable performance and was positioned between the smaller Mustang and the larger Torino in Ford's lineup. The 429 Super Cobra Jet option was aimed to compete directly with other high-powered muscle cars of the era, such as the Chevelle SS 454, Dodge Charger, and Plymouth Roadrunner. The Fairlane 500 had a relatively streamlined body, a fastback roofline, and a wide stance that reduced drag. This car featured an independent coil spring suspension system with heavy-duty shocks and an anti-roll bar, a setup that provided a good balance between ride comfort and handling. Under the hood was the legendary 429 cubic inch V8, producing 375 horsepower and 450 pound-feet of torque. It featured a cast iron block and heads with 4 bolt main bearings, a forged steel crankshaft, and connecting rods for added strength. The engine was mated to a 4-speed manual transmission with a Hurst shifter, and the car could accelerate from 0 to 60 miles per hour in 6.9 seconds. Are you ready for our top 7 quickest Ford muscle cars of 1970? Be sure to like and subscribe to our channel, which helps us create more episodes. Number 7. Ford Ranchero 429 Super Cobra Jet. 6.9 seconds. The 1970 Ford Ranchero GT had various engine options, but the limited 429 Super Cobra Jet was among the most loved. This rear-wheel drive vehicle was developed to combine utility with raw muscle car performance. Its front-end design was shared with the Torino, which had a slightly pointed nose, a broad grille, and quad headlights that improved airflow over the car's front end. The Ranchero used an independent coil spring front suspension with heavy-duty shocks, providing the firmness needed to control the SCJ's power. Under the hood was the formidable 429 cubic inch engine, producing 375 horsepower and 450 pound-feet of torque. It featured a cast iron block with 4 bolt main bearings, forged pistons, and a solid lifter camshaft. This engine was mated to a 4-speed manual transmission with a Hurst shifter, and the car could accelerate from 0 to 60 miles per hour in 6.9 seconds. Number 6. Ford Mustang Boss 302. 6.9 seconds. The 70 Boss 302 had a small block V8, but was nearly as quick as the big-engine Boss 429. The Boss moniker originated from the car being the brainchild of then Ford boss, Bunky Menson. The 302 V8 was similarly created to meet homologation requirements, in this case for the Trans Am series. This car was designed to rival the Chevy Camaro. The 302 Boss boasted a lowered ride height, a larger sway bar, reinforced shock towers, and aerodynamic add-ons. It had a front chin and a rear deck spoiler, which were functional elements that provided additional stability at high speeds. The Boss 302 featured an independent front suspension with coil springs, heavy-duty shocks, and a thicker sway bar. The 302 cubic inch small block V8 featured a high-strength, 4-bolt main block, forged pistons, solid lifter camshaft, and large valve Cleveland-style cylinder heads with free-flowing ports. It produced 290 horsepower and 290 pound-feet of torque. This engine was mated to a 4-speed manual transmission with a Hurst shifter, and the car could accelerate from 0 to 60 miles per hour in 6.9 seconds. Number 5. Ford Mustang Boss Mach 1 429. 6.5 seconds. The Ford Mustang Boss 429 was first created in 1969 to homologate a new engine for NASCAR use. This car was considerably heavier than other big-engine versions, but the superior power of the Boss 429 engine was more than enough to offset its weight. The Boss 429 racing engine used hemispherical combustion chambers, and the heads made the engine too wide. This made it impossible to sit in the engine bay, and Ford farmed out the adaptation of the Cobra Jet Mustang to Carcraft, a Ford-exclusive kind of special vehicle operations company. Ford's plant created the new front aprons and fenders, then shipped them northwest to Brighton for Carcraft to install the engine and perform other revisions to the Cobra Jet Mustangs. Finally, the 429 V8, rated at 375 horsepower and 450 pound-feet of torque, sat into the bay. The engine was mated to a 4-speed manual transmission with a Hurst shifter, and the car could accelerate from 0 to 60 miles per hour in 5.1 seconds. Number 4. Ford Mustang Shelby GT350, 6.5 seconds. No true production of Mustang Shelby took place during 1970, but the cars were simply unsold units from the year prior, which were re-VIN numbered for sale as new Shelbys. By 1970, Carroll Shelby was no longer involved in designing and developing the cars that bore his name. The GT350 was equipped with a new front-end under-chin spoiler borrowed from the Boss series Mustangs. Under the hood was a high-output 351 cubic inch Windsor-derived V8. Thanks to a specialty aluminum intake manifold and a 4-barrel carburetor, it produced 290 horsepower and 385 pound-feet of torque. This engine was mated to a 4-speed manual transmission, and the car could accelerate from 0 to 60 miles per hour in 6.5 seconds. Number 3. Ford Torino Cobra 429 SCJ 5.8 seconds. The Ford Torino was bigger and more luxurious than the Mustang. Its body design was characterized by a sleek, elongated profile with a fastback roofline, which reduced drag and improved high-speed stability. The front grille and bumper design helped channel airflow more efficiently, while the rear spoiler provided downforce, enhancing grip during high-speed driving. The Torino Cobra utilized a double wishbone independent front suspension system, which offered improved handling and ride quality. Heavy-duty shocks and larger sway bars were included to reduce body roll during cornering, enhancing overall performance. Under the hood was the 429 cubic inch V8, featuring a high-strength cast iron block, forged steel crankshaft, and high-flow aluminum intake manifold. It was rated at 375 horsepower and 450 pound-feet of torque. This engine was mated to a 4-speed manual transmission, and the car could accelerate from 0 to 60 miles per hour in 5.8 seconds. Number 2. Ford Torino GT 5.8 seconds. The Ford Torino, which debuted in 1970, was new and featured refreshing aircraft-inspired styling. Ford wanted the Torino GT SCJ to stand out as a serious contender against its competitors, such as the Chevrolet SS and the Pontiac GTO. The Torino's body design featured a streamlined silhouette with a fastback roofline, which reduced drag and improved high-speed stability. The front end was designed to channel airflow more efficiently, while the rear deck provided a sporty appearance and additional downforce. The GT used a double wishbone independent front suspension system, with heavy-duty shocks and larger anti-roll bars that reduced body roll during cornering. Under the hood was the 429 cubic inch engine rated at 375 horsepower and 450 pound-feet of torque. It featured a robust cast iron block, forged steel crankshaft, and a high-flow aluminum intake manifold. The engine was mated to a 4-speed manual transmission, which helped the car accelerate from 0 to 60 miles per hour in just 5.8 seconds. Number 1. Shelby Mustang GT500 428 SCJ Fastback, 5.8 seconds. The 1970 Shelby Mustang visual changes included a longer fiberglass front end, a unique hoop grille, a revised taillight, and exhaust treatment. The car was a high-performance variant of the iconic Mustang line, designed to deliver an unparalleled combination of speed, power, and racing pedigree. The GT500's fastback design offered a sleek profile that reduced drag and improved high-speed stability. The vehicle's front air dam and rear spoiler were strategically designed to optimize airflow, providing downforce and enhancing grip during aggressive driving. It utilized a double wishbone independent front suspension system with heavy-duty shocks, larger sway bars, and a stiffer spring. Under the hood was the robust 428 cubic inch V8 featuring a cast iron block, forged steel crankshaft, and a high-flow aluminum intake manifold. This engine was rated at 355 horsepower and 420 pound-feet of torque, though many enthusiasts believe the actual output was higher. The 428 was mated to a 4-speed close-ratio manual transmission, which enabled the car to accelerate from 0 to 60 miles per hour in 5.8 seconds. Thanks for watching today's episode. Which of these muscle cars is your favorite? Let us know in the comment section below. Also, if you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel And don't forget to click the like button to show your support and stay updated on our latest episodes.